Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. Hey, there's going to come times in your life when you are guided by God, and God will guide you with circumstances that surround you. And sometimes it will be in favor or disfavor with other people. You're going to see today how Jacob determines, well, he heard directly from God too, but then the surrounding events made it clear that it's time to go. All right. And that will happen in your life too, even if God doesn't speak to you directly. There might be events that happen in your life where God is showing you it's time to move on, it's time to go. All right. So let me read here today. We're starting in Genesis chapter 31 today, and we're going to be reading verses 1 through 21. So let me get a drink here. And then we'll get started here. Well, let's start right now. How about it? Verse 1, Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Okay? So we had talked earlier, in yesterday's episode about how Jacob wasn't earning anything before. He had just been working for 14 years for his two wives, but now he's earning by getting some of the animals that he's raising. Okay, so this would it should be an abundance of animals, because if you have 100, let's say I have 100 sheep, well, you can count that it by them multiplying out that in a few years I'm going to have 300 sheep, or whatever like that. And so Laban shouldn't be losing money here, but he thinks he is, because Jacob's wealth is increasing by the way he's taking care of these animals here. All right, so verse 3. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. The Lord's speaking to Jacob right here, okay? Time to go back. And if that wasn't clear enough, we're going to see other things. So verse 4, so Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the fields where his flocks were. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said the speckled ones will be your wages, then the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said the streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me. Okay? You remember what we talked about yesterday. The deal was he gets all the spotted and speckled, the whole deal. But Laban is a crook, really, and he's changing the wages. He didn't even treat him right to start off with, okay? But he's changing the wages like, I didn't mean spotted and streaked. I meant just spotted, okay? So he's doing that. How are you going to work for a guy that changes your wages always on the decrease? Not good. But God's always blessed him. In breeding season, I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked and speckled and spotted. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, I answered, here am I. And he said, look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, and spotted. For I've seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. Okay? God said here he's the God of Bethel. And Bethel is, if you remember, it's the place that Jacob stopped at on his way out to Padoram. Okay? And where he got his wives. He stopped there for the night. He had nothing, and he laid his head down on a rock. And God spoke to him that night. And when he woke up, he said, I'm here in the desert, but he said, I didn't know it, but surely God is in this place. And God says here, I'm the God that spoke to you at Bethel. I'm that God. I'm that God. Okay? Verse 14, then Rachel and Leah replied, Do we still have any share in our inheritance from our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, but he has used up what he had paid for us. Surely all our wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Now, when you look at this, it looks like it's confusing. Like, oh, what are you talking about? Jacob was, when you gave money or whatever for the dowry for the wife, that was really kind of an insurance policy against divorce. So that, let's say, I gave a dowry for my wife of $30,000. Okay, just a figure like that, $30,000. What would happen is my wife's parents would keep that $30,000. They wouldn't spend it, but they would keep that. And if something happened to me, that I died, or if I divorced my wife, they would have that $30,000, and they could continue to. My wife would be continued to be taken care of because there's that $30,000 there. Okay. What they're saying here is that the money, really, that the wages that Jacob was working for the 7 years, all that should have been stored up for that purpose. However, it wasn't, and Laban had just spent it all. Okay, just wasted it away. So there wasn't that money anymore; it was gone. So they're like, "Oh, doesn't have that money anymore." And he not only sold us, but he's treated us like foreigners now, and so they're ready to go too. Verse 17. Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all his livestock ahead of him, along with all his goods he had accumulated in Paddan, and to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him he was running away. So he fled with all he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and headed out for the hill country of Gilead. Remember, when Jacob came here, he had nothing. When he's leaving, he has a whole bunch of stuff. He has all the wives, the children, slaves, and he has all this livestock. So he's not going to be moving very fast, okay? But he wants to get away from Laban, all right? So he makes a plan that he's going to leave when Laban is out shearing sheep someplace else in a faraway place. So he doesn't know he's gone until Jacob has made some progress in his journey. Okay. But this whole passage here, what I read today, it's showing that it's very clear to Jacob that it's time to go. Okay. He can see it in, first of all, what God said. God spoke directly to him and said, it's time to go. And then the events surrounding him with his father-in-law consistently changing his wages all the time. It's like, how can I make a living? Because pretty soon I'm going to be broke, working for Laban. And then the next thing was his wife's full support of it, because they saw how Jacob was being treated, and they were being treated the same way. And they were all in agreement. Yep, time to go. So that's when Jacob said, yep, time to go. So anyway, God will guide your life in some of those same ways. He might speak directly to you, but it might be just through events surrounding you. And it might be your spouse talking to you and saying, time to go. Thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey through Genesis. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.